In general, a man could come across as though nothing phases him, and this could mean that a number of men look up to him. If this is the case, he could be seen as an example of how a man should be. Like a big oak tree, then, he is rarely going to be affected by what is going on around him, and he will typically be in control of himself as a result. As he is this way, it could mean that he is successful in at least one area of his life. When it comes to how a man should be, he could believe that he should be brave, independent, mentally strong, and unemotional. If he was to come across a man who is emotionally expressive, he could see him as being weak and lacking self-control. He might end up saying something to him, or he could keep his view to himself. If he does say something to him, he could be somewhat supportive, or he could end up pulling him down. If he is in a relationship, he could be with a woman who is overly emotional and finds it hard to experience emotional control. If so, she will be on one side of the spectrum and he will be on the other. Along with this, he might not be overly affectionate, but he might have a high sex drive, with this primarily being when he experiences physical contact. And if he does have a child or children, he could be just as unaffectionate and encourage them to be brave, self-reliant, mentally strong, and emotionally in control, having very little time for vulnerability, the need for support, and emotional expression. Regardless of if he is or isn't in a relationship, has a child or children, or does or doesn't have a number of friends, he might rarely, if ever, open up about any challenges that he has. Naturally, this is going to put him under a lot of unnecessary pressure. The reason for this is that he is ultimately an interdependent human being. He is not here to do everything by himself. However, dealing with his challenges by himself is likely to be seen as a sign of strength, whilst sharing them with others is likely to be seen as a sign of weakness. If he has a number of friends, these could be people who are very similar to him. Consequently, there is going to be no reason for him to open up about what is going on for him, or for his friends to do the same thing. Based on this, if he didn't have any friends, he is unlikely to be any worse off. Of course, he would be deprived of basic human contact, but he wouldn't be deprived of real support, as this is already lacking. Now, even though this is how he behaves, and has probably behaved for quite some time, there could come a time when he is unable to carry on behaving in this way. Something could happen, something that just about knocks him right down. For example, he could lose his job, have a health problem, or experience a loss. And in addition to this, there can be all the tension that has built up over the years, with this plus whatever has taken place recently taking him out. If he was to be broken down in this way, he could wonder why he has had and still has the need to be strong and finds it hard to be vulnerable. The truth is that he is a human being, not a superhero, so there is no need for him to deny a big part of himself. If he has been this way for as long as he can remember, it can be due to what took place during his formative years. This may have been a time when he was brought up in an environment where it wasn't acceptable for him to be himself. Instead, he may have had a father who was emotionally distant and cold, and wouldn't tolerate him expressing certain parts of himself. So, if he was vulnerable, sad, or made it clear that he didn't want to do something, and needed support, he might have soon been criticised by his father. He would then have learned that in order for him to be accepted by his father, he had to play a role. As he was egocentric, he would have come to believe that there was something inherently wrong with who he was. What took place will be over, but behind his tough shell will just be a boy who wants to be loved. As his shell and defenses have started to break down, this can be a time when he has started to come into contact with a lot of pain. This pain will relate to the pain that he experienced by not being loved for who he was and had to repress very early on. Working through this pain and experiencing his unmet developmental needs is likely to be a key part of what will allow him to be himself, as opposed to playing a role that causes him to feel trapped and to be deprived. So with that said, if you're a man and you can relate to this, you can see that for most of your life you have been playing a role, putting on an act, and this has prevented you from being able to fully show up, to be supported, and to have real relationships, and you are ready to change your life. Perhaps you have got to the point where you can no longer continue to behave in this way, and so your defenses will have started to fall down. Then it will be time and necessary for you to work through the pain that has started to come up and to experience your unmet developmental needs. Because of course, while what took place will be over, there will be the impact that this had on you. And so through playing this role, the pain inside you will have been kept at bay, and you won't have been aware consciously of these unmet developmental needs. And so as these defenses in your shell have started to fall down, then now what has been repressed for so long will have started to enter your conscious awareness. And to work through this pain and to experience these unmet developmental needs, you may need to reach out for external support, and this is something that can be provided with the assistance of a therapist or a healer. But the sooner you reach out, the sooner your life will change, and the easier it will be for you to be a whole human being, as opposed to a one-dimensional human being who is playing an act. So the main thing is that you reach out for the assistance that you need to gradually change your life. If you would like to find out more about the services that I offer, please go to www.oliverjrcooper.co.uk or email me at info@oliverjrcooper.co.uk, and I'm looking forward to assisting you on your journey.